party or what? Holy smokes, there's a lot of you here. Faculty, please be seated for a moment. Thank you. Yes, and I will let guests sit, so we've got the rig. We'll enjoy each other's company here. I will work to move us along in our agenda. I would like to take this opportunity to say welcome to Heritage University's 35th convocation. I think I took the initiative around inclusivity with some zeal when I invited so many families here to join in this celebration, and no doubt you represent who our community is and what we love about the students here today. So it is absolutely my honor to welcome you as the interim provost and vice president of academic affairs to our gathering today. I would like to take a moment to recognize that we come to you from the lands of the Yakima people. We would like to acknowledge that we are coming to you from the traditional lands of the first people of our valley, the 14 Confederate tribes and bands of the Yakima Nation. And we honor with gratitude the land itself and the Yakima tribe. Thank you. I would like to take a moment before we begin our convocation today to recognize the Reverend David Hacker to the podium to give our invocation.
Let us pray. Creator of all good gifts, you have given all to us. All the wild diversity of your creation is an abundant gift, including each and every one of us gathered here. I thank the Creator for all of us who are here today, for all the diversity of scholars in this community, for all those who support these scholars, for faculty and staff, for all the parents and family that are here. May we truly honor ourselves and all the unique gifts that make us who we are. May we recognize all that each one of us bring and all that each one of us will bring to our larger community. As students go forth from here to follow your calling, may you each be empowered and equipped to take your place in serving the world. May each of you know more and more deeply, more fully, just how wonderfully gifted you are. May each one of us here continue to discover just who we are, what we are called to be, how much we are gifted, how capable we are of contributing to the common good. May we continue to be able to give all our wonderful diversity of gifts back to all of creation and to the Creator in profound gratitude for all that has been given to us. Amen.
Thank you, David. I would also like to welcome to the podium at this time our Student Government Association President, Suke Navarrete, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay, hello everybody, good afternoon. I'm going to start us off with the Pledge of Allegiance, and I ask that you all join me. Okay. I pledge allegiance of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
The ceremonial assembly Assembly of Members of Colleges and Universities is a long-standing academic tradition that seeks to recognize and celebrate the success of students and their service and the service of faculty. I would like to take a moment to introduce Dr. Andrew Sund, our president of Heritage University, who is going to help me with a little translation here, among other things, his duties. Sorry, my Spanish is not that great. I'd like to take a moment first to recognize any parents who are recognizing students here today. If you could stand for a moment and remain standing.
Muy buenas tardes. Can you hold your applause for a second, please? Muy buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Andrew Sund, soy el presidente de la Universidad Heritage. Y no tenemos la oportunidad de hacer una traducción simultánea de todo el evento, pero esta parte sí es importante. Estamos en la ceremonia que llamamos Convocation, que es el reconocimiento a nuestros mejores estudiantes, y en este momento queremos reconocer a todas las personas que le han dado un apoyo a los estudiantes, que son sus familiares que se encuentran aquí el día de hoy. Así que si todos los familiares de los estudiantes que estamos reconociendo el día de hoy se pueden poner de pie, y los que no están aquí están en otra sala y nos están viendo, también les agradecemos todo el apoyo que han dado a sus seres queridos y que están aquí el día de hoy.
Please take a moment to recognize the amazing parents. I'd like to take a moment now to also recognize if you are a spouse, husband or wife of a student who is here today, please stand to be recognized.
Ahora son los maridos, esposas de los estudiantes. Pónganse de pie.
Thank you. If you are a sibling, a brother or a sister of someone who is here to recognize a student, we'd like to invite you to our admissions office. It's never too early to start. Any siblings, brothers or sisters of students who are here today, please stand to be recognized.
Hermanos, hermanas de los estudiantes.
And something very special to my heart, if you are a child here, recognizing a parent, your mom or your dad, to celebrate them today. If you are a child here of one of our students, please stand and give your mom or dad an applause.
Los hijos y hijas de nuestros estudiantes que se encuentran el día de hoy.
We are also welcoming you to the Office of Admissions, and you are paving the way for the next generation. Any other grandparents, tías, tíos, friends, family, please stand to be recognized.
Todos los otros familiares, tíos, tías, abuelitos, abuelitas, primos, primas, todos.
Thank you, Dr. Sund. I will keep working on my Spanish. So. It would not be possible for our students to succeed without the amazing faculty that we have here. So as we gather today to recognize and honor the students who have earned a grade point average of a 3.5 or higher, we know that many of our students have had to prioritize school over much of the rest of their lives, devoted time, energy, blood, sweat, tears, and have done some extraordinary things. And right beside them, to celebrate their achievements, have been our distinguished faculty members who have made, in addition to teaching, extraordinary contributions to supporting the students of Heritage University. Our faculty are among the most caring and compassionate teachers, mentors, leaders, social workers, confidants that serve at Heritage University. And today we recognize just not their teaching, their excellence, their service, but also their contributions to help us fulfill a mission of a more just society. I would like to ask the faculty of Heritage University, which I am honored to serve, to please stand to be recognized. To recognize the platform party. Members who have joined me here today and joined us here today include Thomas Richter, the Vice President of Administration and our CFO. way to say he's the money guy. And David Wise, Vice President of everything, external admissions, advancement, communications. Corey Hodge, serving as our interim Vice President for Student Affairs. We'll be talking about that later, I'm sure. We're very excited to have Corey here. She also should be recognized as faculty. And then I would also like to take a moment to recognize our keynote speaker, Sarah Augustine, my dear friend and a champion for social justice. And the reason I'm standing here today before you, that guy. Dr. President Sund, who is the third president of Heritage University, has really moved the university into a direction that I believe reflects who we are. And when I think of what I see out here, and I think of what inspires me to be here, I know I share a vision. Thank you. I know that I share his vision for where we are going with this institution. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Andrew Sund, President of Heritage University. Who will also say a few words and introduce our keynote speaker.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Let me see if I can make that stand for me. Let's stay. Can you hear me? Yes. It's indeed a real pleasure to be here today with you. It's our first convocation that we've been able to have since 2019, since before the pandemic. So it's wonderful. It's wonderful to see you all on this day and to see all the family members here also. So if two things first, very briefly, could we just one more time give a big round of applause to all our 3.5 and higher students. And Dr. Hill did a great job of introducing the faculty and introducing my colleagues and myself, but she did not introduce herself, so let's give a round of applause to Dr. Hill. The work we do at Heritage University would not be possible without the help of many people that often don't get recognized. So I'm very happy today to mention that part of what forms a university is what we call the board of directors. Those are the people that volunteer their time to offer their advice to our institution to make sure we're running it the way it should be run, particularly their advice to me, whether I want it or not. I get it. And we're very, very happy to have with us today some board members represented here, board. So if we could recognize, we have Mr. Arlen Washins here. And I know we also have Dr. Roy Sims. I don't know where he disappeared to. There he is in the back. And we were expecting also Ms. Jill Falk, but I'm not sure she's here. I have not seen her. And we were also expecting Mr. Phil Rigdon, but I'm not sure I've seen him either. So, but if we could just give a round of applause to all our board members. Also, part of the advice we get at our institution is centered of where we are. We are in the lands of the Yakama Nation. We're inside the Yakama Nation, and we value that relationship very much. And one of the groups that supports our work the most is what we call the Tribal Relations Committee. It's a committee that is formed by some members of the board, like Mr. Washins that I introduced already, but also some community members that help us, guide us to make sure that we are doing the best we can to support in the area of education, which is our job, the goals of the Yakama Nation, that we are supporting the nation and moving forward in the area of education. And we're very happy today to have with us Ms. Sharon Gowdy, member of the Tribal Relations Committee. And finally, something that personally I'm very proud of is the relationship that I have been able to form with the Tribal Council of the Yakama Nation. It's a body that guides us in this land, and that I have the opportunity to visit often and talk about the progress we're making at Heritage University. And I have to say, those of you who have worked with the Tribal Council, they're not shy in telling you what you should be doing better. And I welcome that. I welcome their advice and their support, but also they're challenging us to do better work. So also very happy that representing the Tribal Council here today is Ms. Esther Moses High-Pierre. And every now and again at these events, we have very important people that show up and don't tell me anything about it. So if you're in the crowd and someone that really helps me in my work, and I'm sorry if I did not mention your name, but we thank you for your work. So thank you, all those very special guests that we have here today. Now to the most important part of our day. It's indeed my privilege and my honor to introduce our keynote speaker for today. And our keynote speaker, already mentioned, is Sarah Augustine. And it is my pleasure to introduce her as a friend of Heritage University. Sarah Augustine is a Pueblo Tewa descendant, is the founder and executive director of the Dismantle the Doctrine of Discovery Coalition. She is also the co-founder of Suriname Indigenous Health Fund, through which she has advocated for vulnerable indigenous people since 2004. She has represented the interest of indigenous community partners to their own governments, the Inter-American Development Bank, the United Nations, the Organization of American States, Inter-American Commission on Human Rights, the World Health Organization, and a host of other international actors, including corporate interests. I just noticed that I may need different glasses after this meeting today, but she employs diplomacy and group decision-making strategies to escalate conflict and establish common ground between indigenous communities and external interests. She has written for Sojourners, The Mennonite, and a Baptist Witness and Response magazine, and is the author of the book, The Land is Not Empty, Following Jesus and Dismantling the Doctrine of Discovery, a wonderful book that I think there was an opportunity to get it today. I had the opportunity to read it myself, a wonderful book that we can all learn from. But most important of all, please join me in welcoming Sarah Augustine to the podium.
What a pleasure it is to be here. I'm at that age now where I can't see you if I have my glasses on, and I can't see my notes if I don't have my glasses on, so I'll be taking them on and off, I guess. I'm going to turn my timer on too to make sure I don't put you all to sleep here. It's a privilege to join you here on the homeland of the Confederated Bands and Tribes of the Yakama Nation, and I'm proud to live here as a guest and as a neighbor. I want to acknowledge the elders and leaders who have guarded and preserved this healing land and its sacred waters for untold generations. In spite of colonization, they have preserved these lands for their people, keeping faith with the Creator to care for all the people, the two-legged, the four-legged, the winged ones, the insect people, and what I have been taught to call the community of green ones that we depend on, the Standing Green Nation. I want to tell you a little bit about myself so you know who's talking to you. Like many of you, I'm an assimilated person. And I'm also an indigenous person, an indigenous woman from many peoples. My father's mother is Tewa, or Pueblo. The traditions of my people are matrilineal and matrilocal. My grandmother was a Tewa woman from the land of the round earth, the Nambe Pueblo, and so that is my heritage as well. My grandmother's ancient ancestors, the Anasazi cliff dwellers, practiced advanced architecture, astronomy, mathematics, irrigated farming, so many other things. So I come from them, a proud and noble people who revolted against the Spanish colonial invader and cast them out of their lands for over a 10-year period, the longest held revolt in U.S. history. My mother, who has passed now, was Latina, a mestiza whose people lived in the region of southern Colorado for nearly 500 years. The ancient people of Colorado and her ancient ancestors were also the Anasazi, and the Ute, Apache, and Cheyenne. All mestizos are indigenous, of course, since the Spanish colonizers came to a land inhabited by indigenous people. Many of the Spanish men who came with the colonizers were soldiers and made families with indigenous women. That is why so many of us Latinos are brown. We are descended from European and indigenous peoples. My mother grew up speaking Spanish. Her grandparents didn't speak English. Their parents, and the ones who came before them, lived on that land when it was still Mexico. My mother's people, my people, joined the United States in 1854 with the Treaty of Hidalgo, which ended the Mexican-American War. When my mother's parents died when she was 11, she lived with her grandparents, learning their ways. Although their lands had been in the United States for 88 years, they still spoke only Spanish in the community where my mother lived until she entered Catholic boarding school. My mother lived with her maternal grandparents until then. She was the first in her family to graduate from high school. But both my parents were orphans. My father was taken from the arms of his mother when he was born in 1942 and placed in a Catholic boys' home 300 miles away from his kin, his tribe, his language, his culture, his lands, and language. He grew up as an orphan, unloved and unwanted. He lived on a work farm for brown boys where he performed hard labor for his room and board. His removal was not just an isolated event, but a matter of federal policy. The federal government in the United States has practiced the policy of removing indigenous peoples from their lands from the time of the Declaration of Independence, where indigenous peoples are described as merciless Indian savages and inhabitants of our frontiers. The Constitution explicitly denies indigenous peoples representation in Congress. To this day, indigenous peoples did not receive citizenship until the Indian Citizenship Act of 1924, although states could still deny natives the right to vote for another 40 years. My father's people did not have the right to vote in New Mexico until 1948, 6 years after he was born. He very well may have been a second-generation American, although his people inhabited their traditional lands for thousands of years, untold generations. So gee, that's a lot about me. But I want you to know where I come from because I share a lot in common with many of you. I grew up in the underclass, in poverty. I grew up in a violent and chaotic environment. Because my father was removed from the arms of his mother at birth and placed in a boys' home 300 miles away from his people, he essentially stopped being a Native American in the eyes of the federal government at that time. And effectively, as his daughter, I was also separated from our people. My father grew up experiencing physical, mental, emotional, every type of abuse at the hands of the Catholic people who ran the boys' home where he grew up. He is not an inspirational success story. He did not beat the odds. He struggled with anger, violence, addiction, and incarceration throughout his life, and I therefore grew up in a violent, chaotic environment. I spent my years as a teenager on and off the street. I held down my first full-time job at age 14. I worked illegally as a motel maid where I was paid in cash under the table. I earned $1 for each room I cleaned. I was exploited by my employers as a child laborer. I didn't have a permit to work and they took advantage of that. I also went door to door looking for work in working class neighborhoods, cleaning homes and washing windows. In the summer, it was not uncommon for me to walk miles every single day looking for work in temperatures above 100 degrees. I worked hard because my family was counting on me. I was frequently paying bail, paying to get the family car out of impound, and putting money on my dad's books when he was incarcerated. Late at night, I studied in the bathroom because that was the only room where no one was sleeping. I shared a type 2 bedroom apartment with 8 other people, most of them children. My story is not unique. It is a common one for colonized people who have been denied the ability to accumulate wealth. I grew up in the underclass because the wealth of my people was lost to us starting in 1540 with the arrival of the Spanish colonists that enslaved my people, and ultimately the United States government that inherited the right of first discovery from the Spanish at the end of the Mexican-American War. After the Spanish, the lands of my people were transferred to the United States from one colonial power to another. As a young teenager, I decided I was going to stand up for justice. I know what it feels like to be discriminated against, treated like trash, talked down to, and humiliated. When I learned about human rights abuses towards Indigenous peoples around the world, I related to them. I decided that I would not walk away from them, but devote my life to working for justice. I was the first member of my family to graduate from college, then the first to earn a graduate degree. I have devoted my education, my life energy, to seeking justice for my people. Who are my people? Latino people? The people of this community where I have made my home? You are my people. I'm so glad to be here among you to get to talk with you. I'm an ordinary person, and I want to tell you about what I have done with my one ordinary life. And I want to ask you to join me. In 2014, I co-founded the Coalition to Dismantle the Doctrine of Discovery. The Doctrine of Discovery is a legal doctrine that discriminates against Indigenous peoples. It is the policy structure that took our lands away from many of us and continues to remove Indigenous peoples from their lands, just as my father was removed from his homeland and grew up among strangers. I'm now the executive director of this coalition, and I work with Indigenous peoples all over the world who are seeking self-determination and justice for their peoples. I work with the Wayana of Suriname and French Guiana in South America. I work with the Maya of the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. I work with the Mezquitu of Nicaragua. In 2018, our coalition helped to pass the Nicaragua Human Rights and Anti-Corruption Act in U.S. Congress, protecting the rights of our Mezquitu partners. I work with the Apache in Arizona and the Dakota in Minnesota. I work with Indigenous organizations like the National Indian Child Welfare Association and the Indigenous Women's Resource Center. Last year, our coalition went to the United Nations to advocate for the rights of Indigenous peoples in 3 separate consultations. I have presented before the United Nations, the Organization of American States, Inter-American Commission on Human Rights, even the Supreme Court in Washington, and many others. Because I believe that justice is possible. It's possible to imagine a world where the humble are not oppressed, a world where the mighty are accountable and held to the same rules that apply to everyone. We have joined the Apache stronghold in Arizona in upholding the treaty rights of the Apache at the sacred mountain, Oak Flat. The Apache have been guaranteed the right to worship in this sacred mountain, where Australian mining company Rio Tinto plans to collapse the mountain to establish an open pit mine that will be 2 miles across and 10 stories deep. We are working with tribes across the country to uphold the Indian Child Welfare Act so that Indigenous children will not suffer the way my father did, growing up with strangers from their people. I am an ordinary person working right here in this community. Please say that with me. Right here in this community. Right here in this community. In 2020, at the height of the COVID pandemic, the Yakima Police Department asked me as the director of a dispute resolution center to care for young men and women engaged in gang violence. These people are often despised, feared, or forgotten. I raised the money and put together a team to offer these individuals, violent offenders, shooters, what they would need to leave gang life. And then we gave it to them. Relocation, treatment, rent, transportation, education, you name it. Within the first 2 years, we significantly reduced gang violence in Yakima just by caring for the offenders no one else cared about. We reduced contact with police among participants by nearly 70% and reduced assault with a firearm by 20% in 1 year. In March of 2023, I received the Community Excellence Award for significantly reducing gang violence. I did that right here in this community. Say it with me. Right here in this community. In 2021, I was asked to serve as the chair of the Washington State Redistricting Commission. Every 10 years, there's a census to count the residents in the state to ensure that they are represented in Congress and in the state legislatures. That is, to ensure that everyone gets equal representation. Redistricting commissions draw the lines of legislative and congressional districts, which must all share the same number of residents. In the United States, there are only 14 states that have such a commission, and I led one of them. I served as the chair in Washington from January 2021 until the Washington State Legislature affirmed the final maps. In this very powerful political position, I ensured that we consulted with federally recognized tribes, that tribes would have a say in how they would be represented. We were the first commission in Washington State history to do so, to follow the law. In a state with more than 7 million residents, 1 million people participated in the process of redistricting. We created the largest mobilization process in state history and received input from 1 in 7 people. I did that from right here in this community. Say it with me. Right here in this community. In 2022, the Washington State Supreme Court asked me to serve as chair of a process to bring access to justice in the judicial system for poor people. In 1 year, the Supreme Court agreed to change the statute governing how poor people access to the appeals court, providing them access to the courts for the first time. Similar to redistricting, I asked the Supreme Court and the legislature to ask low-income people what needs to happen to make the judicial system fair, and the Supreme Court agreed. Next year, we will begin a process where lawyers and poor people will work side by side to rewrite the law. I did that right here in this community. Right here in this community. In 2022, when the chief of police and the head of the Union Gospel Mission could not agree on strategy in response to homelessness in Yakima County, I asked them to get on the same side for the sake of us all. These two men were fighting, loudly, in public, working against each other. I facilitated dialogue that spanned 3 months and resulted in a deep collaboration between two powerful agencies. Participants shared their experience getting on the same side at the Yakima Common Good Summit. And I did that right here in this community. Right here in this community. I am like you. I am one of you. Imagine what we could do if each of us devoted our ordinary lives to pursuing justice. Imagine what it would be like as you join me in the pursuit of justice. I want to tell you about who you are. You are paradigm breakers. Do you know what a paradigm is? Professor Hacker probably used to teach people about paradigms. It's the assumptions about the world that make up the rules. Paradigms, realities, and the rules can be challenged and broken. Our assumptions about who is a citizen, who should have the right to vote, can be broken. They have been broken before. Our assumptions about who should have access to land, who should have access to dignity, can be broken. Actually, all human innovation requires paradigm breakers. And I want to tell you that the people who benefit from our current systems, our current paradigms, will not be the ones to imagine a new world. They will not be the paradigm breakers. You will be. The idea leaders, the paradigm breakers will not come from Yale or Harvard, Penn State, or Mount Holyoke. The innovative leaders, the imaginative leaders who break paradigms will come from here, from Heritage University. Innovation will come from the ones who imagine a better world because they can't bear the world as it is. Us. You and me. I will end with a quote from the New York Times bestselling author, Marianne Williamson. Our deepest fear is that is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant? Who am I to be talented or fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing it small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. You were born to make manifest the glory that is within us. It is not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. Thank you.
I'm so glad we recorded that because I think we have to spend a lot of time reminding ourselves of these things over and over, and I would never get tired of hearing that over and over. And I want to take just a moment to acknowledge Sarah Augustine for her amazing work, for being a dear friend, of course, to me, but also to Heritage University. What is also so amazing about her is that she's available, and she's looking for people to be with her. To follow her, to lead. She is looking for you. I know that, and I can say that. So I think we can also do some recruiting here in this space, and she is remarkable. I would like to invite Dr. Maxine, brings him back, Janice, to the podium, and Corey Hodge, if you could also assist me, Vice President Hodge. Sarah, we would like to present you with a gift. Please accept this gift as our appreciation for your commitment to a more just world. Your quest to create a more just society represents the mission and values of Heritage University. We have a Walk in Beauty blanket with blends traditional Navajo and West African symbols in honor of Navajo and African American heritage while celebrating the individual beauty each person possesses. The complex design and fabric and dyes fermented in mud are believed to have the power to absorb pain and deflect anything negative or dangerous. For my dear friend, Sarah. All right, what you've all been waiting for, an opportunity to be recognized. Parents, families, friends, it is now time to recognize the many students that we have. Ushers and announcers, please approach the stage. And you have your microphones. Yes, I want to make sure you have your microphones. I would also like to invite Dr. Sund to the stage right in front. That way. Students, you will be invited as your names are read. Please hand your name card to one of the readers. They will read your name as you walk across the stage. For those of you that have family and friends, please be sure to be recognized in the camera here, as they may have been in our rollover space or online. And I'd like to just remind everyone, students being recognized today represent the top academic performers and have received a GPA of 3.5 or higher. I know this is always hard to do when we say please hold your applause as the readers recognize our students, but we'll do our best. I would like to introduce our announcers, Dr. Miguel Juarez and Director of Human Resources, Anita Flores.
Delia Chávez. Astrid Sarco Macías.
Delia Serna Valenzuela.
Ana Yancy Mitchell.
Camila Rubio.
Noemí Mendoza Santiago.
Eldrick Knapp.
Andrea Ceja.
Vanessa Estrada.
Sereni Benoit.
Luz Granados.
Diana Martínez.
Anaí Morfín Ixtas.
Liliana Sánchez.
Elizabeth Pérez Hernández.
Peter Dance.
Michaela Dodson Dance.
Lainey Hussein.
Melanie Cesena.
Viviana Aguilar.
Lindsay Bruno.
Elizabeth Farías.
Jasmine Wong.
Sori Soto.
Sky Silva George.
Yesenia Bigochea.
Silvia Álvarez.
Gregoria de Jesús.
Tomisha Arquette.
Abraham Silva.
Nayeli Arredondo.
Sureli Arellano.
Guadalupe Aguilar.
Kevin Díaz.
Nancy Chávez.
Alicia Cervantes.
Cristo Rojas Cruz.
Jacqueline Martínez.
Paloma Guerrero.
Isamar Martínez Flores.
Dalia Esteves.
Jocelyn Sánchez.
María Romero.
Kimberly Jiménez Romero.
Anageli de la Luz.
Diana Vargas.
Cristal Mesina.
América Fonseca.
Jennifer Flores Romero.
Nikki Blurs.
Vanessa Morán Tapia.
Keabi Bedani,
Yamulet Aguino.
Nayeli Madrigal,
Morgan Brown.
Lisette Santos,
Ashley Whitefoot Erickson.
Andrea Castañeda Sandoval,
Jacaranda Garcia.
Brenda Palencia,
Salvador Ayala.
Maribel Guizar,
Robert Barragan.
Mackenzie Evans,
Giselle Espinosa.
Cassandra Sedin,
Zaira Flores.
Tania Valdovinos,
Gabriela Castañeda.
Yuri Bucio,
Nathan Salazar.
Alma Aguilar,
José Marmolejo Cruz.
Arlette Moses,
Caitlin Santiago.
Desiree Denise Little,
Eric Flores.
Sergio Cervantes García,
Jesús Álvarez.
Eric Chino Bustamante,
Jennifer Álvarez.
Vanessa Edith Buel,
Lisette Campos.
Diana Vázquez Chávez,
Alexis Koken.
Emily Haynes,
Perla Bolaños.
Justina Valenzuela,
Nayeli Rojas.
Janet Martínez,
Jocelyn Gonzaga Pérez.
Carla Rodríguez,
Blanca Quiroz Marín.
Cristal Quiroz Marín,
Julian Licea.
Carson Norwin,
Silvia Flores.
Colton Maybe,
Inés Beconchea.
Evelyn Arisbeth Borges,
Cindy Vadillo.
Gemma Banderas,
Abigail Garzón.
Yasmín López,
Elvia Valdovinos Cruz.
Mariela Corona.
Jessica Guzmán.
Sandra Guzmán.
Mayra Hernández González.
Aya Solomon.
Alejandra Morales.
Evandi Caro.
Karen Reyes.
Monique Rodríguez.
Tanya Peters.
Julia Polk.
Sabrina Morrison.
Abby Bravo.
Mayra Quintero.
Brian Anguiano.
Enrique Isona.
María Álvarez.
Dalia Gómez Girón.
Pero sí. Amanda Rodríguez.
María López.
María Reyes.
Amanda Beavers.
Jacqueline Lustre.
Ana Juárez.
María Guadalupe Navarro Guardado.
Yesenia García.
Shelby Yoda.
Melissa Land.
María Mendoza.
Miguel Gabriel.
Elida Chávez.
Isamay González.
Brianna Jalifi.
Noah Sampson.
Reinalda Martínez.
Cristian Verduzco.
Maritza Álvarez.
Sandra Pería García.
Jaime Saucedo.
Liliana Arventa.
Aliana Susana Cárdenas.
Diana Chief. Melanie Montejano.
Miss Adriana Bravo.
Mrs. Patricia Mendoza.
Ezra Salinas.
Cristina Domínguez.
Jacqueline Mullen.
Guadalupe García.
En el José Fasó. José. Sarco. No name. Thank you everyone. Thank you. Gracias a todos. Felicidades.
thank you, announcers, for that fabulous job. And one more big round of applause for all the students who are here today. As our celebration comes to a close, we will invite Dr. Wow, David, no, I'm not having a doctorate around here. I always think you make a great Dr. Wise. Vice President Wise to give our benediction. Before that, though, I just will provide folks with a welcome for some refreshments out on the patio. I know many of you are excited to meet and reconnect with your families. Please allow for the procession led by our Marshal, I believe is Dr. Sloniker, President of SGA. Sorry, President of Faculty Senate, I'm sorry. Sorry, Blake. My apologies, I gotta brush this up a little bit here, stick to the script. Okay, the benediction. Vice President Wise will offer our benediction, and then we will exit.
I feel like we're on Oprah. We all get a promotion. Like you get a promotion, I get a promotion, we all get a promotion. For our benediction today, I would like to... Okay. For our benediction today, I would like to offer a poem by Mary Oliver titled, The Summer Day. Will you please join me in standing? Who made the world? Who made the swan and the black bear? Who made the grasshopper? This grasshopper, I mean. The one who has flung herself out of the grass. The one who is eating sugar out of my hand. The one who's moving her jaws back and forth instead of up and down. Who is gazing around with her enormous and complicated eyes. Now she lifts her pale forearms and thoroughly washes her face. Now she snaps her wings open and floats away. I don't know exactly what a prayer is. I do know how to pay attention, how to fall down into the grass, how to kneel down in the grass, how to idle and be blessed, how to stroll through the fields, which is what I have been doing all day. Tell me, what else should I have done? Doesn't everything die at last, and too soon? Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? To all of you who are gathered here with us today, thank you for being here to celebrate our remarkable students. And to our students, thank you for playing big, as Sarah referenced in her remarks, for not playing small, for being paradigm breakers. We look forward to all you will accomplish in your one wild and precious life. Please remain standing as our Marshal, Dr. Blake Sloniker, leads the recession from the auditorium. Thank you.